Welcome to Evolving Ideas. I'm Elaine Smitha. Crop circles is a very popular subject for this show, and we have with us once again Ilis, the National Coordinator for Crop Circle Research here in the United States. I have to get that right. And she is bringing the update for 1997, and I know you're going to be very excited about seeing the new formations. We do have some viewers who may not know anything about crop circles, who are just now learning about them. And so Ilis and I will be getting together here in a discussion about how these occur and what they're all about for those of you who are new and just trying to catch up, because these have been going on for some years now. So join me in welcoming Ilis. Thank you very much.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here.
Fun to have you back again, Ilis. And so for some of our viewers who really are just now getting acquainted, I think that maybe they have questions about where these are forming and whether they're real and whether they really do occur instantaneously. Or what do you have to say about these?
A lot of people are getting turned on, although probably almost everybody, it seems, has heard about the two old men who admitted
Doug and Dave.
to making it a long time ago. One of those gentlemen is now dead.
Yes, I heard that.
The whole story that they broke, in my opinion, there has never been any documentation at all that they have even made one formation. Right. It's all done with smoke and mirrors. And there's one formation in particular that I would suggest that everybody who thinks that they have seen those two men making a formation, you see them at night, one stomping in circles on his board.
Yes.
The next scene, in the daytime, you see a beautiful aerial of a formation that has a halo around it with 3 circles and 2 large circles. If you look at the lays in each of those central circles, they're radial.
You'll have to explain this to our
viewers. A radial lay comes from the center and works its way out on a curve to the perimeter. There are also concentric lays.
Like a spiral, like the beginning of a spiral in the center, and they go out, would you say that?
Yeah, it starts from, if this is the circle, from the center here, it sort of curves, it arcs its way out to the perimeter. Or sometimes it's a radial lay going this way, all right from the center out to the perimeter.
Okay.
Okay. What you see him doing is stomping in a circle.
Yes.
On his board. The next thing you see is this formation with a radial lay in it, and you're supposed to make the association. Oh, 1 + 1 equals. Well, that's not the case. You can see that that's not the same formation that you're looking at from the air that he was allegedly doing on the ground. I don't believe that they've ever made any formations, those two old men. What a crop circle is it's crop that is swirled down in particular patterns very, very rapidly, and now we have documentation that it is done with balls of light. 3 sets of 2 balls of light each, 3 separate passes by at least 2 balls of light.
Now, last year when you came, you had some film footage of these balls of light that you're talking about. And let's see, what could we use as an analogy for viewers, because we don't have the footage with us this time. So they look like spherical light beams.
They look like spheres.
That are
one is
suspended
a large,
in space.
And they come in very rapidly on a very deliberate path. And there's one set that comes in and it leaves over 2 hedgerows. The second set comes in, follows the same path as the first one, and then the third one comes in and follows the same path. Meanwhile, what happens inside, not with the first set, which sets the sound, but the second and the third sets, which obviously put the heat and the wind.
Oh, you're getting way ahead now of our people here. You're talking about heat and wind, and we're presupposing how they're being created, and so you're going to have to backtrack a little bit, Ilis.
Let me try to do this. Okay. In a crop field, the crop is all standing.
Okay, now in terms of crop, we're talking about wheat and rape and...
Wheat and canola, the oilseed rape, and barley and rye and corn. What England calls all of our wheat corn, they call our corn maize. So you might hear either of those terms. But the crop is standing in a field minding its own business. A set of the balls of lights come in and delineates a pattern. The next thing that happens is the second set of balls of lights comes and shines heat, radiates, directs, focused heat Microwave heat, I think it's maser heat. It's a very focused microwave or maser energy. The heat can be up to 1,500 degrees. This is my hypothesis now. You talk to 50 people.
Okay, I was going to say we don't have any firm...
Well, Dr. Levengood has done analyses, and he believes absolutely that it is microwave. He's over 95.5% statistical probability at this point.
So it's the heat, it's the thermal microwave that
Yes, it's the microwave energy, and it works on water. In a
the moisture it would be the moisture in the crop?
In the nodes of a piece of crop,
where
the joints are, that's where the cells are. The cells hold water. So it acts especially on the water in the nodes.
Well, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
When the water heats up, when the microwave energy comes and irradiates these entire fields, entire stalks, very, very rapidly, a 270-foot in diameter formation is laid in front of us on the tape that John Whaley shot last year on August the 11th in 8 seconds. The entire formation opens very rapidly in 8 seconds. So the heat irradiates the stalks and evaporates very quickly. Sometimes there's a hole left in the outside as the water steams up and actually escapes. There's a blown node.
Well, I think anybody who has a microwave oven and puts something into that oven...
It's the same principle.
It's basically the same principle because it acts on water as well.
But the heat is intelligently programmed. It is programmed according to the pattern that is supposed to be laid. The heat affects the stalk, the water comes out of the stalk. What happens then is it wilts. As it wilts, the wind comes in wind tubes and groups, gathers, spirals these stalks together in predetermined patterns. And when it hits the wall at the outside, first the sound sets up the perimeter of the formation, a circle. Okay, just a simple circle. There's a sound that's holding the energy of that circle. It's separating the field from what's going to be laid inside. And this wall of sound extends well above the formation and it penetrates deeply into the ground. It's sitting there. The heat and the wind are applied inside. The wind in tubes, as it spirals, hits this wall of energy, this electromagnetic wall of sound that's sitting there. It hits it, it's deflected, and it spirals upward, dispersing, carrying the microwave heat with it, some of it. The rest of it dissipates over the next minutes to hours.
That is quite a hypothesis. I mean,
I have slides
really
of this.
Awesome. It's really profound what you're saying. The wind, do you think, is coming as a result of these lights in something like a secondary manifestation of the original movement that they're doing?
I think that this is one of those, as everything else is in my opinion, the as above, so below. In the sun, you have the heat, you have the microwave energy, you have solar wind, attendant integral with the heat and the wind and the light.
That's true.
And the sound. It's all part of the greater reality energies, and it is being stepped down and controlled here at our level by an intelligence I call the circle makers, who I don't believe are physical. I don't believe that they come from a planet anywhere.
Oh, you don't?
I don't. I don't believe that they have a physical existence. I believe that this is awareness or intelligence of a very high order, a consciousness, a pure consciousness gestalt, a group that has worked together, has been together for a very, very long time. They have tapped into our civilization at critical bifurcation points as we have evolved as a species, not just the circle makers, but other helpers also. I believe, as last night on Machu Picchu, they had a program, everybody's in awe of how these stones, these 100-ton stones were moved and shaped and manipulated so precisely. I believe that these were done by sound also.
Yes,
they were levitated,
I feel that they
shaped,
have that same
and placed
sense.
by sound. I have a lot of...
It's all frequency.
Absolutely, it's vibration. The universe is vibration.
Of course.
The toroidal energies are vibration.
Do you want to talk about this
now? Let's do this.
Okay.
We're talking about the balls of light and the torus, or the toroidal energies. A torus basically is a donut shape. If you imagine a donut, and then you've all seen the radiations
Can you come in real close on this?
Yeah, if we can get real tight
on this shot here, so we can
on the pictures here.
Pick these pictures up.
The top two are of a solar flare. These were shot by the Hubble Space Telescope.
Okay, well, we have to wait for the camera to get adjusted
in
Here we go.
89. The one on the one on the left over here, if we can get even tighter.
Can you get a little tighter with the camera?
On this one over here. What's down in the lower left-hand corner is the sun, is a solar disk. Okay. This over here is the beginning of a solar flare, just as it's starting to burst forth from the sun. Notice its very definite shape and its 3D form. You have
Yes,
the center,
it really looks like.
you have a crust around it, or a ring, or like a little pie
Right.
thing. And then this was, the time on here is 1809, and here it's 1825. So you got about
That's
17 minutes
really-
elapsed in here, and here's the solar flare going
Look
out
at that
and continuing. You
toroidal
can see
formation.
exactly the donut with the hole going in sideways.
And so
okay,
that's
like
the
that.
black hole, white hole concept, isn't it?
Not specifically with this, but I believe that a white hole, if you take it and turn it around, the black hole is on the other side, and yes, there is a toroidal connection between the two. Might call them wormholes,
Yeah, wormholes, that's good.
or the torus. Okay, in the second line of photos down here,
Yeah, these are really fascinating.
I don't know if this is going to, if you can actually see right under
I
my
think
red
it's
dot
coming
there,
out.
there's a little dimple, which is more clearly defined here by Patrick Wilson, who is a circle researcher in England. This is a ball of light from the still frame of John Whaley's video.
Okay, so this is a video that we saw last year.
Right.
And this is one of the balls of light.
That actually helped to manifest the formation of the Oliver's Castle formation. So there's this unretouched. Here's Patrick's understanding, his enhancement of it.
Yes,
and then
and
here are
he's-
two more as they're moving. If you
Yeah,
take
he's treating that mechanically.
yes, he has it a little bit better defined certainly than this, but again, it's almost
Same
identical.
principle.
You have the central point, you have the around, you have a central point and a skirt around it. Here it's very faint, but you can see the spinning trails that are left behind.
Right.
And here he has like a little skirt of trails and they do spin. It's not, it doesn't just go like a craft, but these are
So
spinning.
they look a little bit like spaceships.
In this particular rendition, yes, but I think that they are perhaps less well defined and more toroidal. These are toroids. These are intelligently programmed toroids that are doing the bidding of the circle makers. This is something.
It is so fascinating.
I think
Alice.
it's extraordinary. It's mind-boggling.
Well, it really is. I wonder if we'll ever have the true answer to this. It's just amazing.
I think we'll have more footage. I think that there will be more people who will
More
be gifted with
exposure.
video and other gifts. Yes, that will.
Do you think that
receive.
they're trying to tell us that we need to become more aware of how they're created? Do you think that they are, I mean, you know, sometimes like they hide themselves and then they let us see a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more, and now maybe this time they're letting us have a look at the balls of light, and then they'll be revealing themselves more and more?
I think it is. It's an evolutionary process that they're assisting us to with our education, spiritual education in particular. I don't know that understanding how they're made is the important thing. That is fascinating, but that is not, in my opinion, what the purpose of why the circles are arriving now.
Why do you think they are?
These are huge energies that are being inputted into our grid, that are drawing consciousness to them, the surrounding people, the interaction of consciousness. As each of us is vibrating at a particular frequency. We each are holding
Exactly.
from our experiences.
Right.
We are resonating at a particular frequency. As we step in to a crop circle, which has a huge range of frequencies. It has all of the frequencies in it. Those frequencies interact with ours as we give it permission. If we walk in and say, "Teach me," and sit down and relax,
I did that down when we had the one down in Chehalis.
then we're taught
Interesting.
and we're allowed to interact. If we walk in and say, "This is made by people, I can see scrape marks, there's
Right,
footprints,"
right.
nothing happens.
Yes.
So if we give permission, these energies interact with us, and they literally, I believe, raise our frequencies. They open us. They're teaching us about energy. They're teaching us about the greater reality in which we have our reality, in which we have our existence.
Interesting. Fascinating. So it's a consciousness inspired. Why do you think they're doing this right now?
Because we need it desperately. Because as a species, we will extinct ourselves. unless we change what we're doing.
Yes.
We have focused, we are half spiritual and half physical beings. We have focused on the physical to the extent of ignoring the spiritual. This is where the nourishment comes from. Mm-hmm. This is where the silver cord is plugged in to the greater reality. We have ignored that and and only delved into the physical. The physical can't sustain us, and it is spiraling downward. Mm-hmm. It's an entropic spiral. It is a life draining, and we are heading toward absolute zero as far as consciousness goes. We are becoming denser and denser and denser and slower and slower.
Well, we're still so war-minded, you know, and self-destruction in so many different ways. You call it the ego.
The control.
Yes, control.
Control of others.
Mm-hmm. Power and control.
Power and control and greed. Mm-hmm. And that's what what drives our civilization today.
That's true.
So these are helping to offering us the potential, if those who choose to explore this other path, we're being fed, and we're being fed as fast and as much as we can assimilate, as quickly as we're hungry for. And there are so many around the world. I'm telling you, I can't keep up with it.
Well, are we having more and more crop circles?
This year in the States, we've had them from upstate New York, Marion, New York, upstate New Jersey, 2 more in Logan, Utah. Wausau had the first one in Wisconsin. Oregon, we had a beautiful, beautiful little one, a Gaia type. It was 2 rings around it down in Salem, east of Salem. Didn't have any in Washington in this area that I know about, but and it's very difficult getting information this year. The newspapers are not helping us with that. But yes, they're happening in the world. Holland is still receiving many of them. Germany received 2 beautiful ancient mazes this year. The very intricate one, which is sort of in a circle, and then it has the path going back and forth inside with the. Reports of others, I don't know about Australia this year. This is just going into their summer and their crop growing season, so we'll stay tuned to that. It's happening all over. They're happening all over the world.
Do you think the newspapers are purposely suppressing this information?
I think that the newspapers have been cowed by the. I think that they really, if you can get a reporter and say, "Look at this," he will get excited. He will catch fire and take it back and want to. He will help locally. But to do it on a national level, they have been cowed. They don't want to be made fools out of, and our government is not supporting this information. Indeed, they are suppressing the information from getting out, just as they are about the craft, the Phoenix lights, the lights that we saw over here. To expect me to believe, or any Western Washingtonian to believe, that those lights fell into the Pacific Ocean when you're watching them travel west to east.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
Is not the truth.
No, of course not.
Okay, so...
It's
we have to start thinking for ourselves. And this is not, the circles and the greater reality energies are not linear. It is not a linear progression that we can follow. And if we're willing to step out and explore for ourselves and see what resonates with our heart, see what out there is in tune with our frequencies.
And maybe not be so fearful of it.
There's nothing to be afraid of.
But a lot of people may,
place.
Yes, I love that. I love that. The universe is a safe place.
It very much is. If we expect to find fear and demons behind rocks, they'll be there. Absolutely, they'll be there for us. Thoughts create reality. Consensus thought creates consensus reality. And I'd rather join in with people who are curious, who are loving, who are cooperative, who are not afraid to explore.
Excellent. Excellent. Wonderful.
And the circles are feeding us, yeah.
That's great. Well, let's start with the slides
Let's start with the slides.
Get these going here.
In the first few slides are a graphic representation of what I suggested already about how the formations are actually physically laid. On this first slide here, I represent the circle makers as an amber ball of light. It sends out this huge electromagnetic, or I call it sound, a full spectrum sound, radiates it, penetrates into the ground, it separates the crop in the rest of the field from what's going to be the formation. It penetrates also into the soil. Next slide. That amber ball of light that was up here then sends out those balls of light, and here I have them represented as 3 groups of 3 with a little red bib in front of each one. That red bib is a representation of the maser energy, bursts of maser energy, very, very quickly, zipping along, just extremely blindingly quickly. all of these are starting at the same time. The one at the top here starts, the one comes down in the middle of the field and is going to run to this orange line. This set of 3 here is going to run around in a circle and then come back up over here, okay, and finish, make a ring. So this is all happening simultaneously.
It's really fascinating how these occur.
Split-second perfection timing. It's awesome. Next slide. In the very center of this, up here, there's a hole
and I can see that.
in the joint. It's a blown node. This is what happens when the heat heats the water up in the cells
and
very
it blows
rapidly,
out.
and it explodes out through the covering, the outer covering of the stalk. This can happen in control. We can see it in control stalks, maybe 8%, sometimes in a really dry summer, maybe 10%. The minimum in a crop circle is 20% in those formations that have them. Not all formations have blown nodes, but those that do, 20% on up to 100%. You can just walk with your toes and pick up stalks and they'll be blown. I mean,
really?
Some formations have them to that degree. Next slide.
But they also can bend at those nodes too, can't they?
The function of the nodes normally is that when a heavy wind or rain or hail knocks the crop down in a storm, and if the seed heads are not mature, the stalks bend up and get the head up so that the wind can dry them out so that they don't mildew and rot and mold on the ground. So the function of the nodes is to raise the stalks, the seed heads, so that they can continue maturing and receiving nourishment. This is normal where it thickens on the bottom here, or it'll thicken here. But in a formation, what you see is a bending down, which is not normal. A crop does not normally
lay down.
Earthtrope or geotrope. It's a heliotrope. It turns up to the sun. So this part could be normal, but the key is to see the base of the stalk, and if it's turning down, you know that this is something that is not a normal part of its growing method.
Okay, so what do we have here?
Here we're looking at, this is why I represented the 3 silver balls together. You see the 1, 2, 3 white bands like.
Right.
They're about 18 inches wide, and I don't know if one silver ball takes one 18-inch swath, or if one does all 3 18-inch swaths. There are different ones, and I'll show you some different ways that the paths terminate a little bit later on. But this is what gave me an idea, and the graphic representations are approximations. They're just symbolic representations. This isn't precise like that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Up on this top picture here, if we can get a little bit tight on that, there are groupings of stalks. They end in bundles. And you can see on the left, there's one bundle here.
Oh, we have to wait a minute here.
Okay, if we can get a little bit
we
tight.
have to do this adjusting. Takes us a little bit.
There are 3 large bundles of stalks and another loose little skinny one over here on the side. That's good. Okay, so you see where you have here, there's one bundle right there.
Right.
There's a second bundle, and then off on the left here, there's a third bundle. There it is. And you can see the actual breaks in between. And all of the seed heads are parallel one to the other.
Yes, I see that.
They're all nicely aligned. The crop that comes down across it here, all the seed heads, where's my pointer here? All the seed heads here are parallel, and then this is where the ring started.
Oh yes, I see that.
And it goes out, and those are all parallel. They're pulled. It's like, I'll show you in another picture. So that's why I represented them as 3 side by side.
I see.
Because it terminates, the paths terminate
Is
in
that
3.
repeated in so many
Yes.
places that you came to that conclusion that there were 3?
With variations. If it's a wider path, you're going to have more bundles. But they'll all be about the same thickness. They'll all have their seed heads organized parallel one to the other. And there'll be spacings between them. You can see very distinct groups in between them.
Interesting.
Depending on the overall width. Next slide. This is some of the intricacies of a joining of where 3 separate paths come together. I don't know if that's coming together very well, or if it's showing very well on the screen. Let's take the next slide. Yeah, that's a little bit clearer. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is a representation of that one of those silver balls.
We need to get it up on the screen here, so they know what you're talking about.
2 screens going.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. This is one of those silver balls with a burst of maser heat. It's shooting out its heat. Now, these stalks have already had the water taken out of them, and they've wilted, and these are in the process of falling. The wind tube is coming along right behind it and is spiraling.
Isn't that fascinating?
And wrapping them in bundles.
That's so
according to the way that it was programmed. Next slide. Here is the wind tube that has hit the sound barrier. The sound barrier is standing here.
Wait a minute. Okay.
Okay, the sound barrier is standing here on the standing crop, and the wind tube came here and spiraled, hit the sound barrier, and ran up it, leaving this in its wake, leaving a little trail in its wake. This is consistent in every formation. Next slide.
That's amazing how they can be so precise.
Oh, it's astounding.
It is.
There's just a certain feel. You can see a formation as you're approaching it, and you don't even need your gizmos and rods or anything. You just know, you can see. The energy is very clearly recognizable.
Fascinating.
This picture up here on the top right-hand area in particular is from the Chehalis Formation. Excellent. These are the wind tubes that laid the crop, and you can just feel, you can see how it
has a dynamic sense to it.
In parallel, yes. You can also see a little bit, let's see, where's my, in this area here, the tubes, the groupings of stalks. And that was our Chehalis Formation in 1994. Down here, again, is two more of those perimeter bundles as they exit, as the wind has hit the sound barrier and exits up the side. This one's from 1994, this one's from 1995. It's consistent year after year after year. Look at the floor lays down here. You can see the groupings of stalks in the bundles. Next slide.
It's very fascinating how they do bundle themselves.
Look at this one. This is in barley.
Oh my gosh,
it's actually twisted. You can just, there's no question, but that it's a rotating, spiraling upward energy that is trailing, that is causing these to tangle like this.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Where was that one?
This was in a beautiful little formation. This is my horse story formation. 29 circles this year in Sheraton in Hampshire County, which didn't get too many formations in Hampshire. The story I'll tell you about, I'll show you when we got the aerial on it. It'll make more sense. But this is barley from that formation. Next slide. There we go. Okay, we can pull back on that one. This is the center of one of the circles, and the way the bundles are laid to give a suggestion. Some of the stalks are brittle, and they're not going to make a complete curve, but they work, the underlaying stalks are, the overall picture is that there's a circle being formed, but it's done with straight lines. It's done very precisely. Some of the bundles, you'll see some of the curls that are actually twisted. Wait till you get to the end of this. They have many different ways of achieving whatever it is that the pattern that they're trying to get. Next slide. This was from 1996 formation. Down here, the energies came up this way.
Gosh, it almost looks like an ocean
from
wave.
From the back, exactly. From the back, the energies came up here, and this is a crest where those two waves of energies are literally hitting.
Fantastic.
And these are two standing circles over here. These are two full moons, and this is heading right for the split in between them.
Oh my.
The energies ran down that way.
Isn't that fascinating?
This is one of Chad Deacon's pictures. He's a Vancouver researcher. Next slide. Here you can see the wind tubes, again, very clearly spinning from the center and the groupings. This is not done with a board. This is not a 4-foot or a 5-foot or a 3-foot wide section. These are very specifically spiraled sections of crop.
Just gorgeous.
And again, notice in the back up here, you have the perimeter stalks, the angles of these.
Oh, that's right.
Sometimes they'll be very skinny, 1, 1, 1, but they'll all be at approximately the same angle. Sometimes the bundles will be thicker. You might have 13, you might have 25 in a group, but they'll all be the same approximate number at the same approximate angle. Some will be more steeply inclined, some will be less inclined.
So they're regimented in a way.
They're consistent.
I mean, you're consistent.
Yeah.
Well, I meant sort of that, yeah, you better word.
Next slide is the other end of this circle, and again you see the wind tubes terminating here. Okay, so this is where the crop had started, and then this is coming around and terminating on top of it, just laying on top of it. So that's the beginning and the end of this particular circle. Next slide. These are some perimeter stalks, terminations as the wind again hits that sound barrier and leaves. I'm giving you a variety of these to show you that it is consistent, that it's not just a hallucination from one or an extrapolation from one sample.
Are we going to have some overhead views now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Next slide. They'll be coming up in just a second here. I think this is the bundling. Notice that the seed heads again are parallel.
Yes.
Yet this stalk was pulled down by its own leaves that are wrapped, that are spiraled, in fact,
Isn't that
perpendicular to the flow of the crop. So the only energy that would account for something that pulls this way and yet something that is going this way is a spiral. It's wrapping the leaves around its own bundle.
Isn't that amazing?
And pulling, like you take a shirt that's wrinkled, you sprinkle it with water, you put the heat on it, and you pull it. And it pulls everything into alignment, makes it smooth. That's what's happening here. It's moistened. The crop is all moistened because the heat comes out of it. The heat makes the water come out. It's wet. And then this huge wind is just taking it and having its way with it.
Yeah, the vortexural, would it be a vortexural type of
spiraling wind. And it plasters it up against the side of that sound barrier, and it stays.
Well, it would probably dry and solidify when the heat is removed and the moisture is removed, so it would...
It stays right in place.
It just stays there.
Exactly.
Well, that makes sense.
Next slide. This is another formation, another bundle, same thing. We'll just pass over this one quickly. The seed heads are parallel, yet the leaves in X's are wrapped around it, spiraling perpendicular.
Really fast.
Side of that sound barrier, and it stays.
Well, it would probably dry and solidify when the heat is removed and the moisture is removed, so it would...
It stays right in place.
It just stays there.
Exactly.
Well, that makes sense.
Next slide. This is another formation, another bundle, same thing. We'll just pass over this one quickly. The seed heads are parallel, yet the leaves in X's are wrapped around it, spiraling perpendicular.
Really fast.
Next slide. Underneath, you have one layer of crop going from this way, left to right, and on top, quite clearly, it's going a second way. Now, I haven't figured out how, sort of like a comb with different sized teeth, where you get part of it at one time and then you get the other part at another time. I'd love to see this. This is one of the gifts that I'm asking for, to be allowed to just see it, even if I don't have a camera in my hand, just to see how this happens. Next slide.
I'm glad you're doing this, Alice.
I am too.
Since I've known you all these years, you know, you've just had so much excitement about this, and it doesn't wane at all.
Not at all.
You just keep getting more excited.
This is our first formation of the year, and it was the earliest start to the season that we've had. It was April 20th.
And this was in England?
In England, actually at Barbary Castle, which might ring a bell. This is an oilseed rape. And the precision, I have two shots of this. This one here, though, I think you can see a little bit better. If you can get right where these crescent tips end and follow around that ring.
Oh, yes, you can see an inner ring.
Yes, the way that standing crop is laid with concentric, beautiful.
Yes.
Concentric rings going around, and each of these tips touches this outer ring in exactly the same place.
Goodness.
On this scale is just beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yet there are some people who believe that the formations this year were no good, the early formations.
Oh gosh,
and it's just
thought they were
incredible
gorgeous.
to me that they don't feel.
Well, you know, I think that they need a program like this in order to bring it to their awareness. You know, then they can understand more fully the extent.
Here's another one. It really looks like an iris. You can almost see it opening. And imagine that this is not simply in 2D, but imagine that this is big. Imagine that it's standing up and penetrating the ground, the shape. These are 3D shapes. Next slide. Here is a stalk of canola or oilseed rape. Look at the thickness of it as he's holding it in his hand.
That really
it was bent at the base at 90 degrees. This one does have a split in it at the very end of it here. But I did have another one that I unfortunately didn't get a shot of that does not have a split in it. It is steamed and bent over at 90 degrees. But this is the only one
really
that the dog ate the other one before I could get a picture.
Oh, gosh.
It was a puppy.
I see.
So this is what I was left with. Next slide. This is inside a canola formation with the beautiful, very delicate flowers.
Oh, isn't
very
that
yellow.
beautiful?
People who walk into something like this come out covered in yellow, in the yellow pollen. I have not had this privilege yet. I've never gotten there early enough.
Beautiful.
But this is the inside of a formation. It comes up very quickly also. Next slide. Who are students of the Kabbalah or the Tree of Life.
Oh, yes, there it is.
This
that is really something.
is the second formation that arrived about 1.5 miles away from that first crescent that we looked at Barbary Castle.
Awesome. My gosh. They know something, don't they?
They know everything, don't they? In my opinion.
Yes.
I think we're running a little short here, so I won't go into... some people feel that because of the way this is placed on the tram lines, it's just too precise and that it was done by people. But you can see the way... let's take this one, and this one, and there are others also. But notice these three in particular, the tram lines, the way when they enter the formation, they go in halfway, and they're slanted a little bit.
Yeah, I see that.
Go in on this one here, and it's slanted, and the same thing here. It's because it's spiraled clockwise. You can tell that it's spiraled clockwise. And the second half, you see how precisely those energies did it. This could not be done with a board to this precision on all three of them.
Well, I think we can just pretty much discount
I
the
hope
board thing,
there are
because
no hoaxes. I have been in scores of formation here and in England, and every single one, yes, there's one or two every year. The Germans come over and they make their communication attempt. This year there was a man who did a lawnmower, and he cut, "Where do you come from?" in the field.
Yes.
You know, stuff like this. These are not hoaxes. Nobody's fooled by these. And all these other ones, they're gifts because they show the same thing.
They are gifts.
Nobody has proven to me otherwise. And I challenge them.
There you go.
Don't just tell me I made it. Show me.
Yes.
On the video too.
And be able to do it in 15 minutes, right?
Do it in 8 seconds.
8
yes,
seconds.
please. They don't know the geometry. They don't know the first thing. They bandy words around.
Well, I was thinking about that
Next
pilot who had flown over one area, and 15 minutes later he came back. And first of all, when he went over, there was no formation, but 15 minutes later when he came back, there was.
I think he didn't see it. I don't believe that these happen in the daytime.
No?
I think he was mistaken.
Oh.
This is my personal opinion, and I don't say that he's, trying to pull the wool over anybody, but I really believe that these don't happen in the daytime because where that was, right opposite the Stonehenge, with all that traffic on those two main roads, somebody would have seen something, they would have gone in. The microwave energies, if somebody walks in when those microwave energies are hot, they would be hurt. And that's why I think they put them in the evening, in the early hours of the morning, so that they can cool and disperse before they're found. I just don't believe that these are
well, I haven't heard that, so that's good. Okay, well, let's move on.
Yeah. This is another early one. Look at the size of this one compared with the vehicles in the picture. These are cars here on the road. We've got 360 feet. Is this an Aries sign? Is this a full moon? It might have been because it arrived on April 22nd, and April 22nd was the Buddha's birthday, and it was the full moon of Aries on which Buddha had his birthday, and this might have a tie-in with it, and then again it might not. Under the power lines, if you notice over down here is a power thing, and the lines go this way. So it came through the power lines.
Interesting.
Next slide. Barley, winter-born Basset. Awesome.
Oh my, look at that.
Just awesome.
That isn't something.
Couldn't find this one. I wasn't able to get into this one.
That is really
half and half.
Awesome.
Next slide.
Beautiful.
Another one, half and half, the three propellers. 3 is the essence, the minimal form or minimal energy of the universe, where you have the masculine, feminine, and the interaction or the creation, the birth.
Oh, that's true.
So 3 is the essence. They call it the Trinity in religions
and the circles
and the circles are 3, and quarks are 3, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's 3-bladed propeller here.
The geometry is very elegant.
The arcs here. To make this arc, you'd have to stand outside the circle.
Yes.
To make this arc here, you'd have to stand outside. Okay, and there's no fouling of the crop in those areas. Next slide. Okay, and if we dolly back, and down here we've got the formation. There's the main road, and this formation this year arrived on top of where last year's Stonehenge fractal. We go closer to this one on the next picture. Next slide. Okay, this is it from the air, and it's a fractal. And again, it's based on 3. You have a thicker part down here, it tapers to thinner, and then at the very top it's thinnest. And then you have each arm branching into 3, and each of the arms that are branched has 3 grape shot around it.
It kind of looks a little like a snowflake or the top of a pie. You know, that you might have a pie top.
Inside of a hexagon. Next slide. Barley again, sound trumpets. Barley again, sound trumpet. Okay, next slide. This is the inside of that formation. Here's the
that's
torus.
Gorgeous.
This is why I believe they're confirming also the importance of toroidal energies. This is a torus. This is very definitely a torus. 300 feet across. It's the first formation I've ever slept in. It was this year.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, how interesting.
I spent 18 out of its 24 first 24 on the ground.
Oh, my.
Next slide. 2 days later, this one arrived in the same area in Bishop's Cannings. Beautiful star, blown nodes in the central circle of it.
Beautiful.
Next slide. This is from down on at Warminster, at Clay Hill. This is what it looked like from the apron of the hill. Next shot, we go up. There it is from the air.
Oh, gosh, look at that.
This is awesome. You know, pull back a little bit on that. Yeah.
That almost looks like something that, you know, a tapestry of lines that you might make off of a frame.
The central circle, yeah, the string designs.
Yeah, the string designs.
The central circle arrived first, and a couple of days later, the rest of the pattern arrived on it. The hexagon is laid clockwise, but the base of the hexagon has one bundle thick, and it runs counterclockwise. The entire hexagon is outlined differently. Next slide.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Didn't make it into this one. Very nice, standing tufts in the outside, like a little silver platter.
Yes, well, it looks like that, or a buckle.
Or buckle. Next slide. This is the 29 circles. This is the one that my horses, I had the experience of the horse. She tried to bring her horse, the farmer's wife, into the formation with me. And the horse would not cross the sound barrier.
Really?
Not under crop. She took her crop out and was stinging the animal, trying to get it to move forward and urging it forward. He would not go. And I said to her, the reason he's not going is because he senses the energies that made this. I don't believe in corn circles. And I said, some people don't believe, but your horse believes, and that's why he's not coming in. That's why he's not coming in.
Did she become a believer?
She was furious. She wheeled her horse around and out. There's another one from that circle now. This is the circle that spiraling tube was from. And here you can actually see the residue as it's crossed over. It hasn't. It hardened that way. Next slide. Poppy. Here's a couple of strands of stalks. Okay, just a couple of wisps with the poppy was mixed in with it. The poppy retains its moisture.
Oh my. It wasn't
It is
touched.
viable, and yet the wheat was taken down.
Fantastic.
Next slide. Two formations side by side. It doesn't happen often, but it seems like maybe once a year now we're getting them. If we can focus that a little bit better. On the right-hand side is a six-armed star. Beautifully laid.
It certainly is. It's beautiful.
Can we focus that, tighten that a little, sharpen it? Is that the best? Okay, and on the other side of it is like a little Trisket. This is an incredible grid, a 30 by 26, 30 rows across, 26 rows down. Each one about 8 inches wide, the width of 2 of my feet together. Next slide. I think we go closer to each one. Okay. That grid, okay, next slide. The grid, according to Michael Glickman, if you take each of the standing squares in it and assign a date to it, which I won't go through the math, it comes out as a calendar terminating in 2012.
Oh?
Next slide.
Interesting.
There it is. Get real tight on that. It's kind of dark. But you see that it is a grid, actually.
Uh-huh. My goodness, 2012. There's that number again.
There's that magic number.
It just keeps popping up, doesn't it?
Next slide. This is an old formation. I want to get to the ends here. We really don't have much time, so let's just advance. These two, there's a
Pretty
circle
dark.
that's on, yeah, it's kind of dark. A circle arrived on the right. A lot of wind damage in the field. Next slide. Keep going.
Oh my, isn't that something?
That's an interesting lay in this formation. Next slide. Next slide. This one's called, some people call it the goddess energy. Immaculately laid.
Isn't that something?
Next. This poor farmer received 4 formations. You got one there, one here, and one here. Next. A band around a simple circle, and the circle was laid radially. Everything comes out to the wall. This is from the center of the circle here, out to the wall of it. With
The
a
elegance
beautiful
is
band.
just-
Oh, it was incredible. He cut this one out with his combine because too many people were coming without his permission to explore it. You
isn't
need
that
to
too
get
bad?
permission. Next slide.
This is it.
We're going to go through. Next slide. Just keep running these now after a couple of 3 seconds. I think we're going to have to go ahead.
That looks like a pie with a pie
Cookie
crust.
cutter, yeah, with the pie still attached on the outside there.
Yeah, or a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
An ant, or whatever. I heard that it was beautifully laid. I didn't get to visit this one.
Oh, look
Oliver's
at that.
Castle this year.
Now there you can see the signature, can't you?
Yes.
Isn't that little
Down
one?
here.
Mhm.
And this is very new, and people were very fascinated with the way that was laid. I didn't get into this one. I called him, and I couldn't get him on the phone. He wasn't answering. Next
Oh.
slide. Newspapers couldn't get through to him either. We had a Vesica Pisces. There are 2 very thin rings
Oh,
here
I can see that.
form a Vesica Pisces in the center
Yes.
with the
Star
star,
of
the
David.
6-pointed star in the center, each of which circles has a standing tuft in the center. Not a very impressive overall, but beautifully done. A very pretty little formation. Couldn't find this on the ground. This is in Whitchurch up in Hampshire. Next. Sneak up on this one. Look at the haze there. They're burning already. They're burning off the old barley and stuff.
Oh.
Next slide. We'll get closer. There's the formation.
Oh, look at that.
Called, I think of it as a head gasket or a gasket, or Peter's named it the warp drive engine. Immaculate. Absolutely perfect lay. Next slide. It's horizontal. Next.
Oh, look at that. Well, this Peter is Peter Sorensen. That's he came here a few years ago
Yes.
when you presented, and I had the opportunity of getting to know him.
Have you seen this one?
No, I haven't seen that one. Gosh, that looks like a snowflake.
This is a Koch fractal, K-O-C-H. It is at Silbury Hill, and it was absolutely awesome. I'll show you here, look. Follow the pointer here along this white dark line.
Well,
There's
I
here.
don't see it yet.
There's my pointer. Here it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Oops. Yes.
You see this here?
Yes.
Okay, it's a dove with the wings open. There's 2 doves. The face is here.
2 doves. Now let's
Here's
see.
the tip of the wing coming
Yes.
down to the shoulder, the head, coming the shoulder and the head.
Oh, my
The
gosh.
entire formation, right? There's 2 doves there and there.
Ah,
Nose to nose.
isn't that incredible?
Isn't that lovely? There are 194 circles around here, each one of which has a different
194
center.
circles?
Yes. Notice the 3 stars.
That is incredible.
Keep going. We got one more I've got to show you. That's later. Okay, next. Go. Go. This is the last one. This is the grand finale of the year. There's the Alton Barnes White Horse.
Yes.
There's the little formation. Next slide. Here it is. It's the exact
Oh.
same thing as a Koch fractal before, but it was flipped over so that the standing crop in the center is a reverse of what was out there. Look,
Now,
okay,
can
hold
you-
it right there.
Can you see the doves in this now? You can't.
No,
really.
this one doesn't have because it's got standing crop in the center. The other one did not
But I
have
didn't know
anything
whether
in the
there was
center.
something there that I should be seeing. That.
Okay, this one you can see the shape here, the 4-sided shape on this one, and then
Yes.
the 3 stars.
Right.
You flip it over, and the 3 stars. Okay, let's go tighter on the next one. Here's the center. Okay, let's pull back a bit. There. Okay, great. So here's the 3 stars, and each of these little things is those 4-pronged finger, 4-sided finger. This one has 198 circles in it, and 144 sides.
That's incredible.
This was the grand finale of the year.
And you can see the
Just-
people standing amongst
Yeah, you
it.
can see the size comparison of those people.
Well, this is wonderful. We're going to have to
Made it.
wind this up. Yes, I'm so glad we got through the slides. Well, we need to have more time with you, Eilis.
I love to share. There's so much
I
information
know.
that's coming out
I
now.
know.
Other researchers do. Thank you, Elaine.
Well, thank you for joining me, Eilis.
My pleasure.
And to my viewers, tune in next time when we explore another avenue of our universe and our relationship to it. I'm Elaine Smitha.